This is the Chiefs' official podcast network.
Touchdown, Kansas City! What's up, boys? Let's go! What's up? Let's go! Linebackers on three. 1, 2, 3.
Hey, Chiefs Kingdom, thanks for tuning in to another episode of In the Trenches, this time breaking down the 23-16 win over the New England Patriots. I'm Chiefs reporter BJ Kissel, joined as always by 6-year NFL veteran, former K-State All-American, and Super Bowl champion with the New Orleans Saints, coming up on the 10-year reunion.
Yeah.
Seems like you're going to have a lot of fun down there, Nick.
Yeah, we'll have a good time. Wife and I are getting down to New Orleans on Friday, and we already have our dinner plans for Commander's Palace, and then seeing all our friends from the team, from the 09 team on Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and dropping a banner while playing the Colts. So insult to injury in your face, you know. Yeah, although nobody's there except for Drew Brees and the punter Thomas Morrison.
Can I get you an In the Trenches t-shirt to wear?
Please
Would you
do.
wear it?
Yeah, I would wear it.
Would you really?
If they'll let me. Absolutely, I'll wear it.
You wear a Chiefs shirt. Or just say In the Trenches. Wouldn't say
Trenches.
Chiefs because they wouldn't know.
Right, they wouldn't know. Yeah, I'll do that. Or we can do an arm sleeve, like a
Big old tat
armband. I
or a
like
hat.
that. A hat tat.
We can do something. We can work this out.
We'll need
So
to.
we'll figure out next week the episode for next week's In the Trenches. Hopefully breaking down a win over the Broncos. Might not be on Monday. We'll work through that, or we'll do it over the phone maybe. Or maybe not. Maybe just let you have some fun down there. You might not want to be on the phone. So we'll figure that part of it out. But should be a fun episode today as the Chiefs move to 9-4 on the season. A lot of things to run through real quickly, Nick. It was the first time in 21 straight games that the Patriots had lost at Gillette Stadium. So breaking a streak there. Continuing the streak for AFC West Division Championships as the Chiefs getting that win combined with the Raiders' loss to the Tennessee Titans means that the Chiefs now AFC West champs for the 4th straight year, which is big time. That was the
First goal.
First checkpoint. And Tom Brady, Julian Edelman had been 42-0 playing together at Foxborough, which is huge. It was the first time a quarterback under the age of 25 years old, talking Patrick Mahomes, had won in Foxborough since 2000.
Oh my God!
Nobody against Bill Belichick or Tom Brady under the age of 25 at quarterback had gone to Foxborough and won a football game.
Wow, that's the last century.
That is crazy. And
That's
that
nuts.
is that we haven't even got into our 10 observations, and
I know,
that's
right?
just
That's
like
just-
running
wow.
them off right there. And there are a lot more just stats, records, things to highlight coming out of the game. That was a lot of fun.
So you're on the sidelines. You're patrolling the sidelines. You're watching the game.
Down there.
You're figuring out
Head on a
stuff.
swivel.
Tell me, and this is what I want to know, because usually Chris Jones is such a quiet, in between, whatever, and he was really yelling at Brady. Tell me what we were missing at home in the commercial breaks.
Everything. Like
Everything?
it was
Was it,
the
like,
TVs,
crazy?
and I never know because I go back and I watch like the coaches' film, so I don't necessarily go back and watch the broadcast,
Yeah.
which is my fault because I don't know what narratives have been spun because I don't know what they focused on. You just see a lot of different things, and you ask afterwards like, "Hey, did you see this?" Like, no,
Right.
we didn't see that, or vice versa. Like they made a big deal of something that blah blah blah. But there was a lot of talking going on, and I still think,
Really?
yeah,
And that's uncharacteristic, right? I mean, in between,
there was more of it. I mean, there was the scrum off to the side with Sammy Watkins and whoever along
Yeah.
our sideline. I was about 15 feet away, but there were so many people involved I couldn't see anything.
that was an awesome
On
block.
that one.
That was an awesome block, and he drove him into the sidelines.
So it was the one that Sammy drove the guy
It was an amazing block.
like blindside where he took him
Yeah.
like
He took
taking him home.
into the bleachers. He did. He really. It was so cool. But that's what I love about Sammy is that work rate, and then blocking a guy out is the ultimate feeling where, and you block a guy past time, he almost threw him into the damn jet heater.
Yeah.
And that was really cool.
I sit it. That was a very quick side story. I sit on those heaters. I did not realize that they come up under your feet.
yes.
They have that thing that you put your feet on where the
yeah.
heat comes up.
It's like dog doors. You can put you can put your feet in them on the benches
Yeah,
too.
blew my mind.
Oh, yeah.
I sat there. I was like, why was I not here the whole time? I was like, oh, because there's players here. But when the players go in for halftime, I sit on the bench with our video guys and got warm because it was pretty cold. It wasn't as windy, but it was still pretty cold.
So there was a lot of talking in between.
A lot of talking. I still think the picture of Alex Okafor standing over Tom Brady and Frank Clark on top of Brady, I might put you like a fat head and like muralize our
would be
wall in our
awesome.
office.
That would be awesome.
Photo is phenomenal.
It's iconic photo. Too.
Steve Sanders, team photographer, crushed that photo. That is going to be one that
and it was Alex looking in too, and Chris Jones looking in as well too.
it's a caption this kind of moment.
There's so many captions to be had.
And so many things it could signify, like just amazing.
Symbolically too. I mean, the way
Love
the defense kind of have been performing all year, and then kind of reach that pinnacle there, or striving to reach that pinnacle.
Yeah, love it. Let's get into our 10 observations from this game because there were a lot of them. The first one, narrative, probably more coming out of the Patriots side and the penalties that were called in the game, and there's going to be headlines about it. It seems like there were some that benefited the Chiefs, but let's not pretend that doesn't happen in every game on both sides. There were calls that didn't go the Chiefs' way in this game, in games past, and I just have a hard time feeling sorry or having you don't apologize for winning. No, you never apologize for winning a football game, because in the past, if you're on the opposite side of that and you end up getting the calls and you feel like you shouldn't apologize, well, it's like that one play didn't change the game. Like, go out and make other plays and don't put it in the hands of people outside of your control.
And it's tough to pinpoint some to say, oh, this penalty would have caused this. But then even on the call that couldn't get reviewed, the touchdown from, you say, N'Keal Harry, right?
Yeah.
And even then they scored. Then the Chiefs get the ball. Then they're going to do something different too. They're going to play different because the score is different. So you can't say go back and pinpoint something and say this would have caused the game to have a different outcome, because then it's like chaos theory, right?
Right.
A butterfly flaps its wings in Indonesia and it creates a hurricane somewhere else, or and it's like you really can't. You change one little thing, it changes the whole everything else.
It just because that call may have been missed doesn't change the fact that it doesn't mean that they would have won, because the bottom line is all of the Patriots' points in that game came from some sort of help. Their first touchdown drive was aided by 39 yards in penalties, and their second touchdown came off of the blocked punt, which we'll get into it a little bit later, and then the other one came off of Travis Kelce's fumble. That was their field goal. So all of their points came off some sort of mistake, whether it was the block punt or some sort of penalty or something like that. They needed help every time they were able to get on the board. So to say that all of a sudden that would have made a bigger difference, because they still would have had to score more points. Yeah. That all those plays we're talking about would have just tied the game. And granted, the Chiefs' offense was a little bit different in the second half, and we'll get into that. But to me, I think you're exactly right in that you can't just say just because that call didn't get made that everything else would have stayed the same later in the game.
It's not. Variables change. You change one thing in the matrix, and then everything else gets flipped up around too. And then also, as a stand, I got a text from a buddy about the equipment.
Yeah.
What
everybody in the world's gotten.
What went on with that?
See, this is what's tough. There was a lot of not to get into all the details of it, is that some things are out of your control,
right?
And I'll say that. But in being there and seeing like it all kind of unfold, the one thing I'll say that's why this is a separate situation that isn't something that's going to be normal or like change all these processes. Gillette Stadium, where the Patriots play, was hosting high school football state championship games on Saturday. So normally when we fly out there the day before the game, the equipment guys will take the equipment straight from the airport and set up the locker room and get everything out. They couldn't do that because the locker rooms are being used. So they had to take the trucks and like all the equipment and leave it in the trucks in the parking lot at Gillette Stadium and then take everything in the next morning, so Sunday morning. So they didn't have certain stuff until Sunday morning, which is not normal. In a normal time, they would have known the day before, and they would have had plenty of time to fix it. So outside of that and some other circumstances that, again, were outside of their control that led to all of this, I will say this. When I was just talking to Alan Wright pregame and just kind of walking around, and everybody kind of looked nervous, or they were kind of...
And Alan Wright is the
head equipment guy, and he's been doing this a long time. Alan's phenomenal at this, and so... Those guys were never nervous. Yeah. So like seeing social and kind of seeing early on, I didn't realize afterwards how big a deal it was being made of it, because I was running around doing stuff. I wasn't, sitting there on Twitter. But Alan, they knew where the equipment was. They knew that it was on the way getting a police escort and that it was going to be there in time. So outside of like Patrick Mahomes having to warm up in some different clothes or stuff like that, nothing ever really changed. It was never made as a distraction. And Coach Reed said it after the game that he gives Allen and the equipment guys a lot of credit for if they start panicking, then everybody else starts panicking, but they had no reason to panic. So I understand why fans would start saying they could forfeit and this and that, like that wasn't going to happen. But I could see why fans got worked up. But being there, nobody was worried, so I didn't think it was a big deal.
Well, and I would think from a player standpoint is I don't think fans realize how much staff does for the players. Where I mean, you go somewhere like you go through TSA, you get on the plane, there's food galore. And then you get to your destination, there's buses waiting for you on the tarmac. You leave from the tarmac, police escort to the hotel.
You don't stop.
There's food at the hotel. You watch film or you go out to eat or something with your buddies, and there's snacks and everything. And so when you get to the locker room on game day, if stuff's not right, they go, hey, we got your stuff coming, and you're fine. Because, most people don't put on their pads unless outside of kickers and punters until like an hour before game time anyways. So, and then this team is a mature team.
Yeah.
There's a bit of adversity. It's handled. Obviously, it didn't affect the outcome.
Yeah, I think it was great, and like I said, the players were never worried, the coaches were never worried. I was not that I had any reason to be worried. It doesn't affect me at all, but I didn't sense any kind of a worry or any kind of a panic from anybody. So it definitely wasn't a distraction, but it was something for the media and everybody to talk about, especially being in New England and everybody conspiracy theories or whatever. But outside of their control. But yeah, not a whole lot. Coach Reed asked about it on the conference call on Monday and just said, it's not a big thing.
Right.
Like it's being made more of a big deal outside. But the one thing that I will make a big deal of in the third observation in this one is that I think we learned something about this team. And I asked Coach Reed about it after the game, is that you learn every week something about your team. Every game builds the identity and builds the character of that specific team that year. Yeah. And the thing that I love about this game, and it's going to sound kind of goofy, so please hear me out, is I love that they didn't play a perfect football game. It's like I'm cheering and being excited that they did make a lot of mistakes and that there were things that they need to fix. And the reason why is we talk so much about margin of error. Mm-hmm. If they go to Foxborough, and again, we ran down all the stats, they almost unbeatable at Gillette. Let's just put it for what it is.
Of course.
Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, when they've got all their weapons, especially when Julia Edelman's playing, almost unbeatable. To go there and win, and I understand people saying this isn't the same Patriots team either. They were the same Patriots team at home. They were 5-0 at home. They were outscoring opponents 28-10. You talk about who you're playing any given Sunday. Any given Sunday, anybody can beat anybody. They took care of business at Gillette. And for the Chiefs to go there and to have a blocked punt, and to have the penalties, and to have the fumble from Travis Kelce, and then for the offense, and granted Patrick Mahomes' hand, we'll get into that in a second, but led them to just have 97 yards in the second half of total offense. They did not play a perfect game by any means, and they went to Foxborough and got the win, which is what I like. If they would have played an absolute perfect, clean game, no penalties, no turnovers, no big mistakes, and then won by 7 points, you would think if we have to go back there and play again, we have to play like that to win.
Yeah.
And the margin of error, you can't make an error to beat them there. But that wasn't the case, that this team is good enough to overcome those things, even what could have been a distraction pregame with the equipment and all these other little things that went wrong, especially how that game started, which is very reminiscent, I thought, of the Denver game. I said it on the radio broadcast that the game at Denver, it was a couple of penalties that helped extend that first drive. They went and got an early touchdown, and then the defense just shut them out after that, which is the same, kind of the same thing that happened. Yeah. But I thought we learned something about this team based on their ability to not be distracted, not just the equipment stuff pregame, which, again, not a distraction, but all the other mistakes and things that good teams overcome, and they did, and that's what I thought I learned about the team. Is it makes me feel good to know that they can go out there and make mistakes. They're always going to overcome that stuff.
Well, and I think you make a very sublime point about not being perfect and still getting a victory, and I think good teams will do that. Right. And it's like we've talked about, like how the defense has really been the workhorse this year. Mm-hmm. I think lately, everyone's coming together. I mean, and doing this, you lost Ogba and, Okafor's back. His ankle's feeling healthy. And you're not firing on all cylinders because you're right. It's like you go to a team and you play perfectly. And you're like, crap, we can't do that. Stars aligned, this and that. And if anything, it's like on that last drive for the defense, you had confidence that they were going to get a stop. Mm-hmm. And it's like, when's the last time you could actually say there and look at it and say, man, I have a lot of confidence in the way this defense is playing. And it was cool. It was really cool to see.
And I love the pressure. And I love the way that the defense came out and played. And I thought that it was telling. We, in the pregame show on Field Pass, we had Mike Girardi from NFL Network, and he had spent the week, he lives up that way, and he had spent the week with the Patriots, and he referenced the conversation he had with Josh McDaniels, asking about what does the Patriots offense, this version of the Patriots offense, have to do to be successful. And he said that Josh McDaniels spent a long time talking about not making mistakes and not giving the other team short fields and this and that, and having to do, he didn't use the word gimmicky, I'll use the word gimmicky, some of the trick plays and stuff like that. And Mike Girardi said, of all the years he's had of covering this Patriots team, we're talking about the Patriots, talking about Tom Brady, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time.
Yes.
And their claim to fame and what they were resting their hat on right then was not making mistakes. Like, we're talking about the Patriots. Like, how have the expectations of that offense changed so much that that's what the conversation was about? Not making mistakes, not turning it over, taking what the defense gave. Like, it's the Patriots. This is Tom Brady. He's arguably the greatest quarterback of all time.
And them having to use 2 trick plays to get the ball rolling too. Yeah. That's always a sign of to me, just as an offensive lineman, it feels like a give up or it feels like a desperation play call. You're like, man, we don't trust our receivers. Our running back's not getting it done. Our O-line not getting it done. Quarterback's not getting it. Let's drop some trickery. Yeah. And you can't win games off trick. You can.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be sustainable.
They had to make plays. And I thought they saw it early that the Chiefs defense, the run defense, like I know there was a couple of chunk plays in there that good teams you're going to have a couple of those. Teams are going to get loose. They're going to have the right call in the right situation to make a couple plays. But that defensive line, that group up front beasted. And I know we're going to talk about those guys, but when we talk about mentally tough and what we learned about this team, my fourth observation, Bashaud Breeland. I loved what we saw from him. And not only because he made the plays late in the game, but I like the fact that he made the mistakes early. He had the couple of key penalties at the time where everybody's pulling their hair saying, like, why are you doing that? And then he got beat on the trick play. And I think Juan Thornhill bit on it too. The flea flicker.
Everyone bit on it.
People bite on that play, especially that's one that they hadn't seen.
Especially early on too, when you're aggressive and you're pinned back and you're trying to get after the quarterback, get after the ball carrier.
And it took a long time for that play to develop. So a lot of negative things that could have happened on any other kind of play call. But for him to make those mistakes and then to stay locked in, and I think it's a great message for like young players, whether you're in high school or college, coaches and fellow teammates, everybody always says, like, think about the next play. Yeah. And baseball is like the next pitch. Like you can't change what just happened. All that matters is the next pitch, the next play. And I think Bashaud Breeland's, game last night was basically, a testament to that, because he had the interception, which was a great coverage, great play call, mixing it up on Tom Brady. And then obviously the fourth down play at the end of the game was a phenomenally athletic play. I think it was a heads up play. I think everything that you can praise about a defense, from the position coaches to the scouting reports to knowing what teams are going to do, what to expect, to having the athleticism to make the play, was that fourth down play at the end where Bashaud Breeland jumped over Edelman and knocked it down, because Tyrann Mathieu, the way that they ran that little pick route, he gave Breeland a chance to kind of curl back around and be there for that play. Frank Clark getting pressure and beating and turning that corner on that forced Brady to get rid of the ball and maybe not put as much or step into it, which allowed it to float a little bit, which gave Breeland the time. I think it was just a perfect storm of everything coming together, and that was a big time play in a big time moment in a big time place. I mean, that was highlight. That's going to be on a highlight film for a long time. Well,
and then it segues perfectly to defense growing before our eyes. Our next bulletin point, where you talk about the early hits on Brady. I mean, those were huge. That people want to talk about sacks, hits make a quarterback. Brady was on the ground in the first quarter, second, third, and fourth quarter, and that affected that 4th and 6 because he felt the sting of those hits, and that's why he threw on his back foot, was because he felt all those hits and the pressure was coming again. So if he was confident where he wasn't taking those hits, he would have stepped up in the pocket, threw a rope, and Patriots would have scored that touchdown.
Yeah, they popped him a few times, and I talked with a few of the defensive guys throughout the week about their blitz package, and because you look at the numbers and the advanced analytics, that Brady had struggled against pressure. He had struggled when teams had blitzed him, which is uncharacteristic for a quarterback who's not. You're not going to fool him. So when you're not getting beat on the blitz, either guys aren't winning their one-on-ones in man, or they're just missing throws, or he's having to get off his spot. And what our guy said is he can step up in the pocket. He's pretty good at dipping his shoulder and all those little drills that quarterbacks do.
Pocket movement,
But laterally, if you can get him to move his feet to where he's got to move outside of a tackle or just move one way or another, he's not going to make a play on the run throwing. That's just not his game right now. And I think that they did a great job of getting him off his spot and moving laterally, because as soon as you saw him kind of leave the pocket, you knew it was a throwaway, or he was going to maybe throw it low and try to give his guy a shot, but didn't make any plays that I remember seeing outside of the pocket in that way.
And outside of that fourth down conversion that he made with his legs, but that
doubled his rushing yards for the year.
Oh my goodness.
Those are the ones you live with.
It's one of those things like, all right, it's fine. You get those chunk yards, but as long as you don't score a touchdown that way, then it's all good. But I mean, just the way they came together too is fantastic. And I mean, when you cap it with the Bashaud Breeland knockdown, beautiful play. And then how about Michael Jordan?
Yeah.
Mr. Flu Game. Frank Clark.
I didn't even know during the week that he had been in the hospital. It got reported after the game. He'd been in the hospital. He lost 12 pounds and that he did everything. And I can't remember, besides Tom Ali a few years ago, I couldn't remember a time that a player is basically not practiced throughout the week and then still played in the game. He was limited on Wednesday with the shoulder issue that he had coming from that game against the Raiders, and they didn't practice because of the illness on Thursday, Friday. So if he's in the hospital, it was either Wednesday night, Thursday, Friday. So it was later in the week. And then, as you mentioned, put out on Twitter the picture of Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen from that flu game. And that's where it was kind of like, I remember seeing him, like, he obviously wants to play, but that doesn't
Yeah,
mean they're going to let him play.
Of course.
And then whatever they determined that it was okay, he did everything he could to get out on the field, and then he made a freaking difference. Like, went out and balled out again for the 3rd straight week. And this defense is absolutely rolling. And it finished with a sack, 2 tackles for loss, had multiple pressures, including that game-saving play at the end of the game. And that's what you paid him for. It's what you traded.
Right.
That's what Brett Veach brought him over here for, is not to rack up 25 sacks in moments that don't matter. It's on 4th down against Tom Brady, 4th and goal with the game on the line, that you make him throw off his back foot, and then another guy you sign in, Bashad Breeland, makes a play on the back end.
And that's what I love about this Chiefs defense right now is you're coming together in December. This is the absolute perfect time to come together. And September, October, it makes a difference. You have to win games, but this is when you really want all the kinks to be ironed out, everything to be clicking, and people playing with supreme confidence. And Frank's play, I mean, not only are he making hits, but he's run stopping, he's hustling. I mean, he's here every down defensive end, and he's not a rush specialist coming in on 2nd and long, 3rd and long. I mean, he's playing 1st down through 4th down, and he's a hustler. I mean, it's just his work rate is just – it's really cool to see. Like, if you ever watch a game and just watch how Frank plays the game, and it's just, man, it's grit.
Yeah.
It's grit, and it's really, really freaking cool. And that iconic photo.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my goodness.
It will be on my wall by the end of the week.
Oh, my goodness. I mean, just brilliant. I mean, when you can hit like him, Frank, and then Chris Jones, you can get in Brady's head. If Brady's talking smack to you, you're in his head.
Yeah, and Tyrann Mathieu, a few of those times on like the 4th down or like a couple of plays where he just points to his head, he's looking at Belichick on the sideline. 'Cause a couple of times you didn't see it on TV where they make a play and Tyrann Mathieu would basically make a play on like the 20, you know, and then he'd be jogging. He'd run to like midfield before he'd peel back. As he was doing it, he was staring at Belichick. And a couple of times Belichick like waved him off, stop looking over here. And I was just like, I love this team. I love this defense.
That confidence, man.
I want to know what, like, I just picture, like, in my mind, like, what would be the coolest thing that Frank Clark, on behalf of fans, could say, like, Brady right there. And it's just like, this is for Chiefs Kingdom. You know, Chris Jones didn't hit you in the head.
Exactly, right.
Last year in the AFC title game. That was big time. And then on the same note, talking about Frank Clark, and the reason that he was able to make plays too was that he had a breather. There were a handful of drives where he didn't come in until 3rd down. And part of that is because Tano Passanio is stepping up and taking key reps right now. Emmanuel Ogbah goes down, and somebody steps up. And Tano Passanio has stepped up and been phenomenal for this team, not just because of the blocked field goal and some of those plays he's made on special teams, but just his ability to hold against the run and splash pressure at different times on Tom Brady in that game and then throughout the season. I think it's been one of the better, underrated, not discussed enough storylines is Tano Passanio's development and what it's meant to this defense, not just because of his stats, but because of how he's keeping guys like Frank Clark fresh for him to go on there and make plays. It's a combined effort. I love to see it. Yeah, it's nice too. And then I'd be remiss if I didn't point out the linebacking trio as well too. I mean, I love watching those guys play. They're starting to bring the energy. You know, Hitchens, Damian Wilson,
Reggie
had some great open field tackles.
Solid.
They tackled well.
Solid. And I think that's the cool thing is no missed tackles. Right, you're not extending plays, right, and it's form tackles, and it's lovely football, and it's a pretty thing to watch on defense right now. Yeah, let's switch to the other side of the ball. We talked a lot about the defense so far, and let's go to Patrick Mahomes because a lot of people make a big deal of his hand. He didn't miss any time. He said after the game that there was no chance that he was coming out of that one unless they let him, but he did say it affected him, and he said it came on a play, and I actually remember because it was kind of about 20 feet in front of me. I was right on the line where it was. It was a throwaway where he got tackled. I think it was from John Simon behind on about our own 20, 25-yard line where he went down to the ground and kind of landed on it funny, and you could see him kind of flexing his hand and just kind of playing with a little bit they had X-rays. Coach Reed confirmed on Monday for anyone who's on, hands and pins and needles right now. He seems to be okay. There's nothing broken. The X-rays came back negative, but his hand, Coach Reed said, pretty bruised up right now. Holmes said after the game that it was sore and that it bothered him, and it did affect his ability to throw the ball down the field. And Coach Reed said that also had an effect on the game plan. And they did a lot more shallow crossers, did a lot more of the running game stuff in the second half than they probably would have mixed in a few more downfield passes. But you look at the numbers and it kind of backs it all up. We talked about the offense just had 97 yards in the second half. Mahomes,
was 12 of 15 in the second half. So a lot of short underneath routes, obviously enough to win. And it doesn't seem like it's going to put his game against the Broncos in any kind of jeopardy, but it obviously needs to be included when you're going back and looking at the box score stats and trying to scout, how good is Patrick Mahomes? Like that needs to be taken into consideration. He did enough to help him get a win.
Yeah, no, he really did too. And it's one of those things where like it goes back to your perfect game concept, where the offense didn't play well and the defense had to win the game for this team. Because the offense did enough, and then the defense did enough too, and special teams did enough.
Yeah. Harrison Butker, I think he's one of the other guys who was down as an honorable mention. We can jump around here a little bit on my fancy little plan I got here. But Harrison Butker drilling field goals in Foxborough in big-time situations. Those are 47, 50-yard field goals. The wind wasn't a huge deal. It was windy, but not to the extent of what it's been at Arrowhead the last few games. But it was cold, and every point's going to matter when you play in a place like that. And they were just looking for there to be some sort of an in or some sort of a momentum-changing thing. And some of those field goals that he hit, if he misses those, that's a momentum swing. And the Patriots needed stuff like that. They needed, again, to capitalize on mistakes to get any kind of points. And the only way they got points is off mistakes, whether it be penalties, turnovers, block punt, whatever it was.
Yeah, and you look at like K-Pass is Tanya's field goal block.
Yep.
On the other side, too, I mean, anytime you get any sort of production that's not supposed to happen on special teams, that's a huge momentum changer. It's a massive momentum changer.
But going last note on Patrick Mahomes' day, he had 283 passing yards, which is the most that the Patriots had given up all year. Mm-hmm. So I think context should be important and given in that. And I think that let's move on to Travis Kelce. A lot of people, and it stinks because I'm glad he didn't break the record we talked about all week. And for anyone listening, he needed 77 yards to hit 1,000 for the season, which would make him the first tight end in NFL history with 4 straight 1,000-yard seasons. And then I saw another nugget that he's like 60 yards shy of the most receiving yards for a tight end in NFL history through his first 7 seasons. So that was another in it. There's stats galore. They're all over the place. But I think the creativity, we saw it with the Patriots on some of the trick plays. I wouldn't necessarily call the Wildcat with him a trick play on the goal line, but that was creative.
No, if we're talking about gimmicky plays, no, because I think it's something where you don't want to run the Wildcat with Mahomes, right? Because you just want to protect him, right?
They run the speed option a few times. We did see that,
and that is a cool thing to do because that's something where he can run it and he can his pitch key close enough where it's an easy play and he just extends it out a little bit more.
Everybody
he engages the pitch key and everyone's holding their breath at home.
No, everybody on the side like pitch it right now.
But you have to engage the pitch key before you pitch it, right? Or that guy's gonna be able to cover both. But with Kelce running that read option in that formation, I mean, it was cool to see, and it's another wrinkle that Andy Reid does at times in December. And then now you put that out there, right? And then the Broncos and every team from here on out is going to say, listen, they have this package. And they're going to have to devote 10 minutes of practice time to figuring out this package.
And you know the great part? I guarantee you that there are 15 variations and counters off that play.
Yes, exactly.
And now it's on tape, and the teams are going to study. They're going to see the formation, be like, "I know it's coming," and it's like,
exactly.
But you don't.
And then you got teams guessing. You got people having to play responsibilities, and then they're not used to doing that. And then now you have like 3-4 options off that play. And talk about red zone play. What a beautiful red zone play to a goal to go play, and just Kelce's such a strong runner. And then you know what else you can put back there? Sammy Watkins.
You could.
Right? I mean, you could put Sammy
Watkins.
Watkins
I was going to say Chris Jones.
There. Oh, jeez.
Let's just get that heavy package.
I would just, if I was a defender, I would just be like, I'm good. You got this, Chris. Just score. I don't want you to just destroy my skull.
I got a wife and kids to think about getting in front of that. All right, let's move on next. McCole Hardman. Had the Jet nickname was absolutely perfect. As soon as I saw his touchdown, it was a 48-yard touchdown. Mahomes threw it up. It was one-on-one. As soon as he caught it and turned, and if you just like freeze frame it, you got a defensive back who's about 3 yards in front of him. There's no one else really around. And it's like, can you step up and make the tackle? It was very reminiscent to me of the Tyreek Hill long touchdown from last year, where it was like the desperation throw across the middle. He catches it, turns, and I believe it was McCourty or whoever the DB was in that play. Whereas another one of those, he catches it, stops, feet are completely stopped. He's one-on-one with the defender, and he just put the Jet on, and like that's why the Jet nickname was so perfect. His ability to accelerate so quickly, and then the angle the DB took was just like, nope.
And
you're not going to get him.
You want to talk about space too. I mean, you give him or Tyreek any sort of space to get their momentum going. It's like watching like another level of speed that you just can't contend with, and that's a scary thing. And that's what I love about this offense too, is they're able to get both those guys in space and sort of let them perform. Like, hey, you do your magic, and we know you can just get around anybody.
Yeah, a couple of those Tyreek plays where they brought him out of the backfield and threw him some swing passes, or did basically treat him like a running back.
Yeah.
And a couple of other ones where it's like a 4-yard gain that turns into like a 12-yard first down. There was one in particular, and I don't remember where it was in the game, but I remember being on the sideline, and I looked at our bench, and I'm smiling, just shaking my head like, how did he turn that? And it wasn't a highlight play. It was like a 10-yard gain, but no one else in the league can turn that into 10 yards. And I looked at the sideline, and there was like 7 or 8 other players that looked at the guy next to him and just shook their head like, you can't, what do you do?
Was it on like a wheel route where he ran to the right side and then ran around the corner?
No, he did. Then we were going.
That was the one where
he threw it out to the left.
Jaw.
The one I'm thinking about, I think he ended up getting tackled or caught by Belichick on the sideline. Okay. It was one of those, like, I just remember thinking Belichick grabbing on, just being like, can you please slow down?
Right, exactly.
I can't scheme up your speed. I don't know how to stop this. All right, let's move on to the next one. And this one is the last observation we've got. And I think it was great because, and then now seeing that the NFL's got like all the shirts out, but the shirt says the West is not enough.
Right.
I really liked it, think it was like special, and then realized that like the South is not enough, and seeing all the other videos. But I still like it. I still like the message because I think Frank Clark said it eloquently and using language that I cannot use on this family-friendly episode here.
Right.
But basically saying the division is not what we're about.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's disrespectful in that fans and myself, I'm going to celebrate it and enjoy it because we remember the other side of it.
Yeah.
You know, I was a fan growing up. I was a fan back in 2012 and through a lot of those tough seasons before Andy Reid got here. And Andy Reid now 7 straight winning seasons, which is crazy to think about the success that they've had under Andy Reid and the consistent relevance and success. But anyway, I love the message that these guys they celebrated last night. They celebrated in the locker room. They had the hats. They had the T-shirts. Everybody was wearing them on the plane, on the way back, taking pictures and all that kind of stuff. And now it's over. Now it's back to business. Yeah. Everybody's back to business, getting ready for a Broncos team that is very, very hot and hotter than a firecracker, I believe is the way that Andy Reid put it on the conference call today. But I just love that the message that these guys were excited about the division. They're going to not take it for granted, but at the same time, they know that it's just a checkpoint. It just guarantees a home playoff game.
It is. Well, and I love to see, and I think the most telling thing about the victory was Bashad Breeland gets the knockdown, and Mahomes gives like a fist pump. And then it's like, all right, let's put our helmet on. Let's go kneel this ball. So the expectations of this team is not just for mediocrity. The expectations this is internally, and you could see it from the sideline demeanor is, okay, this is our first step. Now let's try to see if we can get home field advantage.
Yeah.
Right. Let's see if we can do that. It's plausible, not entirely in your hands, but. And so that's what I like is that confidence and expect to win.
We talked about the team being mentally tough. We talk about the overcoming the distractions, whether it was a pregame arguing whether that was a distraction or not. But also, again, the mistakes that were made early in the game, they were able to overcome and not play a perfect football game. But the other part of it that I get confidence from from being on the sideline and just seeing how the guys interact and just kind of their overall focus. And I know the TV broadcast caught part of it where Mahomes was talking to the players on the sideline and getting them fired up. That was at the end of the third quarter. It was right after Kelce's fumble because I was standing off to the side about 10 feet. But Eric Bieniemy is the one who actually started that meeting. He called everybody over. He spoke for a while, and then Travis Kelce spoke for a while, basically saying, pick me up. Yeah, we'll make up for this. And then Mahomes jumped in. I know that's the part that they caught. It's nothing against Mahomes. But what's cool to me isn't what they said or isn't what that they talked and then they went out, and it's not like they went out and put up 200 yards and 4 touchdowns. What's cool to me is that when he got everybody together to talk and they called him over, everybody came.
Yes.
And you've been on those sidelines. You tell me if I'm wrong, but there are times where like guys are coming out trying to get everybody and guys are in their own world. They're just like sitting like, no, it's my time to rest. Those guys were standing up, which isn't nothing. Like that's when they sit, and especially with the cold, like you sit, you get all heaters, you get all comfy. They didn't do that. Every single guy on that offense, and that's where it caught my attention. Because normally it's like the offensive linemen are together, the receivers are together. There was everybody mixed in. And to me, it wasn't the result after that. It was the fact that everybody was bought in and listening to everybody had a chance to speak. And it just, to me, it was like, that's leadership. That's a team that's together.
Yeah, you nailed it. Absolute leadership and unity. And I think that's what you need in these December games. And, I'll reiterate it again, man. These cats been playing football for 4 months now. I mean, guys are beat down, guys are tired, and you just play through it. and then you play for each other. And I think the best things can happen when a team plays for each other. Right, when they're not looking for a contract, they're not looking for Pro Bowls. They don't care who gets the accolades. They're ready to step up and play. I mean, a perfect example is the Sammy Watkins block. That's a perfect example. I mean, you're not catching the ball. You're not whatever. You're blocking for your teammates, and that's cool to see.
And that's one of the ones they're watching film today, tomorrow, whenever they're sitting back and watching. Like, he's selling out for his team. He's out there making plays.
And it's infectious, too. You see a guy, here's a guy, here's one of your elder statesmen making a grimy hustle block and physical and enforcer toughness. And you're like, okay, I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do that version for me, right? Whether you're D lineman or safety. It's like, I'm going to do that.
Yep. We're all in this together. Love it. Absolutely love it. Well, that is all we've got for this episode of In the Trenches. We appreciate you for listening. And before we let you go, the limited edition 360 Vodka Chiefs commemorative bottle is now available in stores. 360 Vodka is Kansas City's hometown vodka and the official vodka of the Kansas City Chiefs. Your game day cocktails are covered with 360 Vodka. Grab a bottle for your next tailgate or watch party. Nick, before we let everybody go, do you have any parting words of wisdom?
On to the next. It was fun, Gillette.
We're on to Denver. The Fighting Drew Locks.
Man,
the Fighting Lee Summit Tigers.
They're doing well. They're hot.
I think he was Lee Summit Tiger, Lee Summit West. Somebody will correct me if I'm wrong.
Sure. Absolutely.
I remember seeing him play in high school. I'm actually excited because I went to the game where he played Blue Springs with Elijah Lee, Dalvin Warmack, the K-State guys.
Yep.
I saw that high school game. Both teams were like 11-0, and then to see him go and find the success he had at Mizzou. And I know one of the storylines this week, I talked to Coach Reed about it, is that Andy Locke, Drew Locke's dad, who owns Summit Grill and I think some other restaurants over in the Lease.
Really good restaurants out
Pearl,
there.
something like that.
Yep.
Yeah. It'll be reported this week because Coach Reed gave him a huge shout out saying he's a restauranteur. But Andy Locke played for Coach Reed at the University of Missouri for 1 year. Drew's dad was an offensive lineman.
Yep.
Which I think is really cool. Because I remember I was at training camp back in like 2014, 2015. Drew was in high school, and he came out and was on the sideline talking to Dorsey, and then they were going to wait for Coach Reed, and it was Drew and Drew and his dad, Andy Locke, which I think is cool that he comes out there. He grew up a Chiefs fan. Now he's in Denver, killing it, making this game a lot more interesting to Chiefs fans with the way that they're playing. They've got some excitement going, and the Chiefs got their hands full. They've got some playmakers over there.
It'll be a fun one to watch.
All right. That is all we've got. We appreciate you all for listening. And as always, please rate, review, subscribe. And besides that, we will catch you next week. Maybe Tuesday, maybe Wednesday, maybe shaking it up a little bit because this guy will be down in New Orleans celebrating his 10-year reunion for his Super Bowl title with the New Orleans Saints. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. See you next week, Chiefs Kingdom.
This is the Chiefs Official Podcast Network.